When we start, we were talking about the different methods of collecting primary data, where we saw an overview of all the methods, and we just had an in-detail description about observation method of data collection. Now we talk about interview method of data collection, the next part. Observation was where the researcher was observing and then making his recordings of the observation. Now we'll see interview method, which is one of the oldest method of data collection. So the reply given by the respondent is written down or recorded in audio or video format, right? So this method is adopted wherever details of confidential matter are essential, right? If you need some confidential matter to be answered, you're going to be using this method. Interview method may be direct interview method and indirect. So when we see direct interview method, so we will see about what it is. Direct interview method is whenever the interview has a brief response is required from the respondent, and the purpose of the interview and its scope in advance is already known. Then this method is used. So we have a structured and an unstructured method, in the sense, like when I have direct interview, like you have seen these TV shows, and if you have all these VIPs being interviewed, politicians being interviewed, you have a prior appointment to be fixed. Even when you go for data collection, you go to a bank, you will be asking them, like, can I come and meet the manager? What time would suit him? That is called as direct interview method, wherein you fix up a time and then go and meet the particular respondent. So that is called as direct interview method. And when I talk about structured interview method, structured is you should know whom you should be contacting, and what questions you should be asking should be prepared. You know what has to be asked and what will be entertained, etc. If, like, for example, you're interviewing the finance minister after the budget, you should be aware, preparing of the questions that need to be asked. And it should be a focused interview, in the sense the question should pertain only to that. And for the interview, you need to be well prepared, because it has to be conducted in a focused manner. You cannot waste anybody's time there. Nobody has the time to waste, so it will be whatever questions you are prepared with, you are going to ask only that. You will have to seek appointment and go, right? So even journalists, when they are going to meet somebody, like all these TV shows you see, where politicians are interviewed, where celebrities are interviewed, is going to be a structured interview and a direct interview, where they are going to have face-to-face meeting. They are going to be interviewing with a prior appointment, right? And you don't have any scope for irrelevant matters to be talking. And if the respondent is advanced, he could also, if you should inform the respondent also, so that he is adequately prepared. But this method has a few limitations or drawbacks. Like, see, the subject matter is defined, and you don't, they may respond accurately, and there is no scope. Like, you cannot say, in case I want to know a detail of certain thing, I want to ask a question and it is responded to. But in case I need to know some more details, I may not be able to ask, because everything is predefined and I have already scheduled only so much time with the respondent also. And again, if the questions are submitted in advance, politicians also prepare their answers and come. So sometimes it can even be manipulative, wherein you are prepared and you will answer only those things that you can answer in public, right? Or that needs to be known. Maybe you may not get whatever response you need as a researcher. Again, this interview, you need to plan properly. So every time, most of the time, perfect planning may not be possible. And again, what will happen? The interview findings, as I said, I may require more details, but I'm not able to ask, because it is all decided in advance, right? And since the time limit is also given to me, I may not be able to go in detail into. When I talk about unstructured interview, you don't need to have any prior preparation. It can be on the spot. Like for example, you can seek direct public opinion from people if you're launching a new product. What would their preference be, etc. Right? And then also, you send some trained field investigators to meet people. They will tell you why you like it. You can ask, like, say, I like a specific drink. Why do I like it? The interviewer may ask me, and I can speak. And it is on the spot. Extempore questions can also be short. And again, after the drink is launched, their opinion can be noted, and whatever recording can be done, etc. So such interviews can also be done by way of opinion poll. During elections, if you see, any questions will be asked. Like for example, there is something happening on the road. The journalists rush there. They ask like whatever questions come to their mind, right? So these are all unstructured interview where you don't seek prior appointment with the person you need to interview, and on the spot questions are asked to the respondent. When I talk about focused interview, I have to have focus in that interview, in the sense it has to be very objective. The purpose is predefined, and then I have to also, like, be focusing on the topic. Like for example, if I'm investigating a murder, then my questions are focused. My way of talking will be focused only towards arriving at a conclusion as to who has done the murder, how it has been done, etc. Right? So again, interview here encourages the respondent to speak whatever he feels on the subject matter. If you see murder investigations, CBI investigations, whatever you feel, you can speak. But then my focus will be on the responses that you give. I may find out what is the truth, what is not, etc. Because I'm very, very, very focused on whatever you are talking. And the respondent also can feel free to express his views without any direction. Have any kind of questions that are prepared, right? I have not prepared the questions, but I allow the people to speak. Like I have my trained personals who are going to be interviewing. Like for example, we have seen quite often in malls, they take surveys of people, opinion poll. See, after election, if you see, they don't seek prior interview. All these journalists, they rush to a lot of spots. They ask wherever the voting booths are, who do you think will win, and why do you think, how much vote do you think, etc. The questions are all like on how, what is the public opinion about the people's, about different parties, right? So where they would, whom they would vote, people in which constituency will vote for whom, etc. Questions are not predefined. They keep asking, and they don't fix an appointment time, etc. I hope you understand. That is what is an unstructured interview, wherein you are not preparing the questions in advance. You are allowing the public to speak their opinion out, and then also that you don't you don't have certain questions predefined questions, right? Whom to ask, what to ask, etc. जो भी आपको polling booth से बाहर निकलते नजर आता है, इनसे आप questions पूछ रहे हो. You are questioning them. Who do you think? Whom did you vote for? How do you think they will win, etc. Right? So you don't have a particular person to be interviewing. You don't have any prior appointment fixed. You don't have a set time. You will be interviewing this person for 5 minutes, next person for 3 minutes, etc. Hope you understand that.
Yes, ma'am.
Interviewing via phone. This is quite often when you see credit card surveys, etc. Or even your Amazon survey, they will call up this call is recorded for training purposes, etc. And then they will ask you, can you share your feedback, etc. Right? So there is no scope for any physical presence. Both the parties will not be physically present, but then if this will be used only when information and interview are geographically in different locations. questions. Amazon, you don't know where the seller is or where the office is. They don't know where the customer is, but they still ask you for feedbacks, right? And when this study requires a lot of responses, you have a very few questions, but then you need a lot of respondents to respond, like feedbacks. And then if it is going to be, this was an old, of course, notes, radio program, TV program survey, yes. But of late, if you see, call center surveys are all done telephonically, right? This is all because they need more responses, more feedback, and also for training purposes, they use it. And also that their questions are very few. They don't ask for many. See, many a times, students say, ma'am, please refer us for this job. We've shared your number. So the company person calls us, they ask about 3 to 4 questions, ideally, right? And again, the survey has to be conducted within a short period of time. And the units, we don't have telephone directly, etc. Right? So this method helps us because it is very flexible. You can call up anytime. Even if I say I'm not free now, call me after half an hour. Yeah, they're going to call me after half an hour. It's very quick also. And off late, you get even free calls from the telecom kind of companies. And again, as I said, recall is easy. Whenever I need, they can recall me. And again, rate of response is better because the moment they ask, we are going to respond. It is real time. In case I mail them a survey, they may respond, they may not respond. And replies can be recorded because it is all vocal reply. Mouth, from my mouth, my voice can be recorded. And again, it does not require any field staff. Like you don't need people running around collecting the response, etc. But then this method again has its own drawbacks. Characteristics and environment of the respondents cannot be observed. See, supposing I'm driving, somebody calls me. Just for the sake of getting rid of the call, I may just say whatever comes to my mind. I'll say, yeah, it's all fine, thank you very much. And I may put down the receiver. And again, in case I have more number of questions and it requires more details on each and every question, I cannot be using this method. Then again, this method will not be suitable if respondents do not have telephones or if they don't have a mobile, etc. So, but then again, it does not give the respondent sufficient time. In case a respondent wants to share more information, the call center people also don't have the patience to take because they have to go through a lot of, they'll have to call a lot of people in a day. So they may not be patient enough to listen to all that you have to share. So these are the drawbacks of an interview method. So what is an interview method? We saw direct interview, structured interview, unstructured interview, focused interview, right? So with that, we go to the questionnaire method of collecting data. What is a direct interview? I'm directly interviewing the respondent, right? But if it is going to be an indirect interview, I will not be supposing there is a patient and I don't want him to know me. See, many a times doctors do this. They ask patients' relatives as to what is he suffering from and how did it all happen, etc. Right? Or majorly in the case of psychology, psychiatrists, they ask their relatives, etc. as to what has been happening with him, how do you observe him, etc. I hope you understand, right? So the person involved is not directly interviewed. Even in the case of if I suspect somebody in the case of a murder, and if I'm investigating a murder, I may not ask him directly. I may ask everybody else so that I will say, just to eliminate the chance that this person has not committed a murder or just to confirm the chance that this person could have committed the murder, right? So that is indirect interview. Method wherein you are going to record all the questions pertaining to the research study in a sheet of paper. And the researcher is going to circulate the sheet of paper and collect information from the respondents. The questionnaire again is also a form of file which is generated through computer. So the questionnaire of late we are circulating through Google Form and SurveyMonkey, etc. Right? This is called as soft copy questionnaire, which is very popular of late because it reaches the people fast. It is going to be responded easy. It is easy to respond. Immediately I click the link, I fill in the questionnaire and I say I send it. Instead of just writing with pen and then mailing it to them, it becomes very difficult. And also a large amount of sample can be surveyed with this, right? So if I want to test a small sample, supposing I want to study 1,000 people about their consumer behavior. I want to study 1,000 samples and their consumer behavior in a particular village. What I will do is, initially I will study 100 people so that I will know what questions are responded, how should the question be framed, is it actually being understood by the people, etc. And when I do this, what will happen? I will call it a pilot study. Because initially my age of 100 people say, you circulate, okay, I'm getting it tested. That is why I will call it as pilot study. And then once I'm happy with the responses given, or if there is any change that I need to do to the questions asked, by the way the questions are asked, I will edit it and then circulate it again. Objective of the pilot studies, again, I will filter unnecessary question and edit it the way I want. So now what are the mechanics of designing a questionnaire, or what are the salient features of a very good questionnaire? Very, very important. What are the salient features of a good questionnaire? The salient features of a good questionnaire are, it should be printed, xeroxed or typed. Of late, we even email it, right? And the first part of the questions should specify, and it should be constructed in a proper, easy to understand language. It should be legibly written. Of late, we type it, so there is no question of legibly writing it. So you should use simple term, and you should use technical terms should be avoided. Concept should be explained to them before. You may make a paragraph and explain it. This is what it means. And each question should be specific and clear. Ambiguity should be avoided. If there is a question which creates some kind of confusion, supposing I say single and married, right? If it is single, I have to mention. If my study needs that, I need to mention widow, divorced, etc. Never married, etc. Right? So ambiguity should be avoided. Personal questions on wealth, habit could be avoided because nobody wants to speak about their wealth, or nobody wants to speak about certain habits like do you drink, do you smoke, etc. Right? And any kind of questions where they have to calculate your age in days, then it becomes very difficult for them to calculate. Therefore, these kind of calculation involving questions should be avoided. Questions on sentiments, belief, faith, etc. should be avoided. Like, do you love your daughter? If your daughter goes away from you for further studies, will you feel sad? All these things are unwanted. Sentimental questions should be avoided. Many beliefs, religious beliefs should be, faith, etc. also should be avoided. Repeated questions should be eliminated. Again, sufficient space should be given for answering, because if it is too cramped, they may not either prefer to answer, or it may get truncated, it may become very shabby when they answer. And any diagram map, you should print it clearly and make it understandable with keys. Instructions regarding how to return the filled questionnaire also should be given. Of late, you don't need all these things. Earlier, they used to post the questionnaires. Postal address was given and they used to mail it. But then now all that you need to do is click submit. And types of questions could be open-ended and closed-ended. Open-ended are wherein you ask them to express their views and opinions. Like, for example, do you like the soup? Do you like the fragrance of the soup? Etc. And if it is going to be closed-ended questions, yes, no. If it is going to be an open-ended question, why do you like the soap? What is the reason? What if? What is the color that you would prefer the soap to have, etc. Right? And how do you like? Again, if it is going to be a closed-ended question, more of yes, no, multiple choice question we call them. There is no thinking, either a yes or a no, right? And if it is going to be a pictorial question, pictures should be drawn and all the keys should be indicated. All the keys should be indicated. And if it is dichotomous questions like yes, no, agree, disagree, right? These are preferable because it's easier for a respondent to answer. So when I say